All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Watch Later podcast, the show where we talk about smaller YouTube channels, analyze them, discuss their content, what we think, what we like, what we don't like, whether or not they deserve a little bit more attention than they do. This week's channel is Hoops Reference. I'm Tony.
I'm Brandon. And I'm Peter.
All right, let's get started. So, Brandon, you actually suggested this this channel this week. You ended my tyranny over this channel. Why did you choose this channel?
So, obviously, through quarantine, no sports have been happening around the world. Unfortunate. It's my favorite sport to watch. I watch the NBA every year, and it was hard to not watch any basketball. Like there's the Jordan documentary, and there was old basketball games you could watch, but it wasn't the same. I missed my team. So I actually found out about this channel months and months ago before this all started, but I really got into it once quarantine started. So it's obviously a basketball channel, but it's just a lot of analysis, a lot of lists, a lot of talking about basketball. It's kind of gotten me through this time of absolutely no basketball happening. So that's how I discovered it, and I really enjoy this channel. But I mean, I'm a basketball fan, so I may have the biased opinion here, but I definitely think you can enjoy it even if you're just getting into it or want to get into it or just want to know more about a certain player.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was really interested in this channel. And before we started, the question in my mind was, can a non-basketball, non-sports fan, such as myself, watch and enjoy the content, or was it a basketball or do I have to be interested in basketball and sports analysis to really like his channel? And the results I got were varied, and we can get into that a little bit. So I actually will kick off the discussion here because I'm not a basketball fan and I'm not really a sports person, like I said. So I was kind of coming into this with kind of no expectations, no real understanding of what really would be going on. So the first video I watched, I believe it was his most recent at the time, like always, and it was about Gerald Wallace and about the two-way superstar that could have been. Did you guys see that one by chance?
I did, yeah.
Brandon, did you see
that
one?
I watched that exact one, but there's a lot of other videos that are of the same idea.
Yeah, he definitely does a lot of commentary on like single players, which is kind of interesting because basketball, it's a team sport, but it's also you have to perform individually as well. And so going into this video, there were a few things I really liked, like a lot. And the first was like his branding. So like his intro, outro, and logo, I thought all of those were perfect. I really liked the intro, how it's kind of like it's got like the old like the recording of like the applause and the audience noise, and it kind of like draws in. What did you guys think of that one?
I think at a scale like his intros, I could probably give it like a 6 or 7. To me, it kind of like it does the job. I wasn't really blown away by the majority of his intros. They were just, they introduced the topic and they seemed pretty interesting. So I went along with the rest of the video.
I'm talking about just the logo and the first 5 seconds of his video.
Oh, the logo. To me, honestly, I thought I was kind of. I feel like there could be some improvement. Like to me, like that's a logo of a 65.5K subscriber channel. It's fair. Not the logo. Yeah, it's like that's what you should expect. I wasn't blown away by it. So
I thought it looked pretty good for how small his channel is. But I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool. And going into that, I expected kind of it set the tone for his channel. Now, how much the videos really match the tone is something that we can get into in a little bit. But He definitely gets right into the point in his videos. In this video
Hmm.
too, you know, the video like I said, the intro is really short. It's only a few seconds long. I really like that. I really hate long convoluted intros that take up like 30
Hmm.
seconds. And the video length is good too. At only about 10 minutes for just about every single one of his episodes.
Yeah, I would give you that. I would say that like he gets everything that he needs to talk about into a decent amount of time into his videos. But one thing that's kind of a pet peeve of mine that I've noticed like he's been doing in his latest few videos, or I'm not sure exactly when it really started kicking off. But he's the type of YouTuber that'd go, all right, please like and subscribe, like asking for the attention and interaction. But I kind of understand that with smaller channels, but still, it's kind of just a pet peeve of mine to do that.
I I think it's definitely a pet peeve of yours because honestly, I have no issue with it. It's YouTube, and if you enjoy something and you want to keep doing it, you might need money for it because to put more effort into it. So I mean, it's not like he's sitting there begging. He says
Yeah, he
his
mentions it
shtick he
once and he
needs to
gets it out
say
of the
and
way.
then goes over. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not like a big drawn out thing. It's something I would say almost every YouTuber does that's trying to like grow. I know there are some
Hmm.
that don't, but I didn't have an issue with it at all.
Yeah. So this video about Gerald Wallace, I thought was a pretty compelling video topic, which kind of set my expectations a little high for his channel. Because I thought this was actually after watching quite a few of his videos, I thought it was one of his best videos.
Hmm.
I thought it was a very compelling topic, and he went into it, you know, chronologically and just in a way that I found particularly interesting, which going into it was a good first impression as someone who doesn't really watch sports, doesn't really watch basketball.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, if I can butt in right now, I'd say that I really liked that video too because a big part of it was I think for especially people that want to start getting into like the NBA or something or anything, it draws back a lot of the former history that isn't known in the present now. Like he's talked about how Gerald Wallace was a member of the Charlotte Bobcats. That team isn't around anymore. He's filling us in with past information that, if you went and watched the NBA right now, you wouldn't have known about any of this stuff.
yeah, I
So,
also found that stuff very interesting because I'm, you know, I think the history of a sport like basketball tends to be more interesting for me personally than, you know, the modern analysis of it, what's happening right now. That's just how I am. And I also noticed that where it's like he goes into the history a little bit, not too far back, but
mhm,
still far enough that it's like, oh, that's interesting that
mhm,
that they made a team and then the team's not around anymore.
yeah.
Um, but that's kind of where the good things I liked about the video end, and we're gonna get into some stuff that right off the bat I noticed that continued to be issues throughout every single one of his videos that I just wasn't a fan of. You know, I'm not trying to shit on the guy or anything. I'm just trying to provide some constructive criticism here. The background music, I hated.
Yes.
I
Yes.
I was wondering if anybody else was gonna bring it up. He uses the same background music for every
The
single video I
same
watch.
Hmm.
goddamn music. This was the like by far the biggest criticism I have of his channel. The same background music. It's the same section of the background music. I don't know how long it is and I don't know how much it repeats, but it doesn't change up. And it is like moderately intrusive to the video. It's too loud.
Hmm.
And it
Yeah.
is every single goddamn video, and it made it so hard to watch more than 2 videos at a time from him because it was after a minute just incredibly grating. Like, ugh.
I think that's one thing that should be said about this channel is like you can go back and you can watch all of his old videos, but that's gonna be the one thing that sticks with you throughout all of his. Like I hate this music because I've heard it so many times, and it I don't think it's as bad when he's putting out a video every couple days or every week because then you kind of forget about the music, and then you hear it and you're like, yeah, that sucks, but I'm here for the 10 minutes and then I'm out again for another week. So it doesn't lend
Hmm.
itself to like watching the whole backlog.
Right,
Hmm.
binging. I think that is definitely very true. This is such a hard channel to binge, but if you subscribed and you were just watching the videos as they came out, I could definitely see how it would be easier. But
Hmm.
that's not really how YouTube works, okay? If you want to attract, a greater audience, you need your videos to be watchable all in a row, right? So people are like
Hmm.
clicking on your videos, like you click on a video, you watch the video, you click on another video. That's how you succeed on YouTube, because YouTube rewards channels that keep viewers on their platform. I could
Hmm.
not watch more than 2 videos at a time of this guy, because the background music, I swear to God, it's gonna haunt my nightmares.
Hmm. Yeah, so I think that could kind of be drawn back to like my pet peeve of telling him to like and subscribe. It's the monotony of it. It's
Hmm.
every single video he says the very same thing, and then tying back with the background music. Every single video has the very same song for the entirety of the video,
Yes.
and so in order to like create a good user base and be able to binge watch it, you have to have variety in how you say things or like background noise, like the music.
Yes. Hoops reference, if you're listening to this right now, change your goddamn background music. Just, ugh. It was very frustrating for me. Um, but whatever. Moving on.
I don't want to get into like I don't want to get into like the terrible things about it, but I do have one other minor complaint. But other than that, I'm not going to talk bad about it anymore, because I honestly do. This is one of my favorite channels. Other than these things, it's that, the music, and if he talks about the same player in two different videos, he uses the same video clip. So
Yeah, I
when
noticed
he's
that
talking
too.
about all the different players, whether it be like on his draft grade videos, just talking about the player in like a ranking tier list thing, he uses this like shooting around in a gym, doing drills. He finds clips of those players doing drills and gyms and stuff like that. And it might I don't make videos like this, so I don't know how hard it is to find videos of these people in gyms and stuff that isn't like copyright claimed by the NBA. But like you might be, I wish you could vary it up a little bit more. But if if he told me I can't do that because it's hard to find stuff like that, I could understand it. But one thing I do have to
Hmm.
say is, if a player shows up in multiple videos, you're probably going to be seeing the same clips of them shooting around in the gym.
Yeah.
Yes,
Uh.
I also had a note about the clips, is that um, I do not think they added a whole lot to the video watching experience. The clips, while they focused on the topic he was talking about, like whether it was an individual player or whether he was doing a ranking, they were always about what he was talking about, but they weren't ever important, right? This is a channel that you could
Hmm.
click on the video and then open a new tab and just listen to it, because you don't need to watch the video.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem, because it's YouTube, which is a video format. You want people on your video watching it. And I think the clips need to I think he either needs to change them up and, do a little more variety, like we said, or he needs to make original content that is interesting to watch, because it's not doing a great job of selling his analysis when the video, just strictly from a visual perspective, is boring to watch, because it's just a ton of clips that don't really relate to what he's talking about.
Hmm.
I,
But if
and
I would go ahead.
I think I don't know how easy this is, and I know a lot of basketball YouTubers struggle with this, um, but I don't know if you can sneak some in-game footage of them in there that shows that exact point. One thing I did like is in what is currently the most recent video, the ranking the best NBA players in different. I can't really see the end of it, but it's like he's gauging them off different categories that you don't usually talk about. So he talked about the fastest player in the NBA. He said Ben Simmons, and then he showed a little bit of him shooting around in the gym, which doesn't really show speed. But then he did show one clip from an NBA game where he sprints down from one side of the court to the other, and you're like, wow, he whipped through all those players in a flash. That's what he needs to do more of, if possible. Is if you're going to talk about this player doing this thing good, you need to show us him doing that thing well. because currently as it is, every clip that's shown is this player shooting jumpers in a gym and making all of them, and it makes everybody seem the same, when in an actual NBA game, that's when the real talent is shown.
I think that's an excellent point, and that's definitely not something I picked up on as someone who doesn't watch basketball, is that is exactly what you said. If he's going to be talking about someone doing something, well, he should probably show them doing that.
But other than that, I think the strength in this channel is the analysis and storytelling. He puts a lot of work in to telling the story of a player, if that's what the video is about, or going through the draft, thinking of all the different ways the draft choice was at the time, how it is now, and doing all the analysis of the numbers of their career. I think that's where the strength of the channel sits.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that his biggest weaknesses are actually the video making format. He knows what he's talking about for every single one of his videos. He hasn't had a take that I was like, that's preposterous. Like, what is he even talking about? The majority of the time when he talks about something, I'm like, oh, that's pretty accurate. You know, that makes sense. Like when I was watching a couple of his videos, I found some pretty small things in his editing process. Like he'll go through the different the draft pick lottery grades, and he'll have the different names of the people. Every once in a while, he'll throw an extra like text layer on accident, and I forgot to take it out. So I think if he was to simplify his editing process, he'll catch some of those other mistakes. Just I want him to focus more on the commentary and like giving out his own takes. I'd really like that.
Yeah, that was a question I actually had for both of you. Was, you know, I obviously, like I've said, I don't know a lot of basketball. How accurate is this guy's commentary? Or like does he like, is he clearly, you know, like an expert, or is he just kind of like talking out of his ass? What do you guys think?
I think this is like gold standard commentary without ever saying something that's just like, I can't believe you just said that. I think if you want to learn about the NBA and you don't want to sound like an idiot when you're talking to somebody about the NBA, this is like the perfect channel to do it. I think his most informative and what am I trying to say here? Like the video that I thought would be the best example of being like, if this guy didn't know what he was talking about, it would be shown in this video. It's the video called like Meet the Empty Stat All-Stars of the NBA. And basically in that video, he's talking about the players who, yes, they put up big numbers, which would be impressive to the average person who doesn't really know a lot about the NBA. They would see the number and be like, well, that player's good, right? But he goes into the depth of like why they have those stats and why they're really not that great because of like the situation they're in. And if somebody's came up to me and said, well, I think Zach LaVine is better than James Harden because of blah 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 number, I would be like, I would just take that person's opinion and be like, well, no, you're wrong. You're just wrong. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. And I think that video really goes into depth why. And so I would say, like, he knows what he's talking about. That's really what I'm trying to say. Out of all the videos I watched, I can definitely take away, like, this guy's opinion is right most. I would say it's a good one most of the time.
Yeah, the best way I could describe his takes are very well researched. So I don't know if a lot of these are his original ideas or opinions, but I feel like he's definitely like looked deep into a lot of these things. He's pretty well read with what he's talking about.
Yeah, that was definitely something I noticed, was he goes really in depth, like almost to a degree where it almost feels like almost too researched. I don't think it really is too researched, but he goes so in depth. It's like, wow, you really like clearly did your research, you know your stuff. And you know, you're backing up everything you're saying with numbers, which I think is definitely a hallmark of good commentary and analysis. One of the other things I didn't like so much is he has a monthly series where he predicts the next draft, and And I'm going to be honest, I just thought it was very boring. And this was a problem I had with quite a few of his, like his series videos, is I just thought they were boring. I felt,
Now this is where I'm going to come in and say this might be the fact that you aren't a big NBA fan coming out and showing
yes,
itself. Those were interesting to me because I love the NBA and I love hearing all these little stats about different players and these draft boards. I don't watch a lot of NCAA basketball or watch a lot of young stars. So seeing him talk about those players that I know are going to be in the league in a couple of years and like just knowing a little bit about them so I can like talk about them a little bit with other people when they talk about the NCAA. I think that's one thing I actually really did like was he wasn't just talking about the NBA, is he would talk about the G League, under like the minor league basketball, and he would talk about the NCAA, and he would talk international, which I thought was really interesting. But I can definitely understand how to a person who doesn't watch basketball all the time, it wouldn't seem that interesting.
yes. And I think that's part of the reason this channel isn't bigger. You know, he has 199 videos right now. He's almost at 200 videos, but he only has 65.5 thousand subscribers as of recording on the 26th of May. I think, you know, what I just said is the reason, is because a lot of his videos are not interesting to anyone other than basketball fans. I found myself very bored watching this channel, and I hate to say that because obviously he's making good quality, you know, as you guys have said, his commentary is good, but as far as someone who doesn't know what all of this means and is just kind of coming into it, it's not very interesting. You know, like I said, the clips aren't very interesting to watch, and hearing him just talk about numbers all the time, it's not a very compelling experience. You know, his best videos are the ones like the Gerald Wallace one, where he's telling a story of someone's career, but he doesn't do that very often. And so those series suffer because they're just not appealing to anyone besides basketball freaks. And I think that's an issue if he wants to grow his channel, which I think is pretty clear. He definitely wants this channel to be, you know, a success because he's putting so much work into it. The thumbnails, they look pretty good. The analysis obviously takes hours and hours, and you know, it's just these little areas where he's not quite focusing on, like the editing, like you know, the general interesting nature of the topic, that's really, I think, causing the channel to suffer and not grow.
I would say I think currently as it is, the NBA is the fastest growing sport with young people. And so I think what he's doing right now is fine. I'm pretty sure this is all he wants to do. Like he probably has a job and all that, but I'm pretty sure this is definitely his interest. There's no way he'd be doing this if he didn't care about this. And I don't think he'll expand out to become like this all encompassing, like, oh, anybody can watch the channel. But I think he's doing a good job of also involving those people while not outright just doing it for the people who don't really know the NBA. He's doing this for the people who love basketball, and I think I admire that because I think there needs to be more like that suited towards, I guess, just me. But I can see how it would be worse for growth as a channel. But at the same time, basketball is one of the fastest growing sports in young people, and those young people are going to start going around YouTube, and they're going to find him eventually, and they're going to be like, this guy does some good stuff, and I can learn about the NBA through this guy a little bit.
Well, that's one of the things, right? Is obviously he's catering to a niche of people who really like basketball, but what you just said, where it's young people are going to find this video. If I found, you know, I'm a young person, I'm 19, young adult. If I found this channel and I liked basketball, I would still be bored with it, right? I think he doesn't present the information in a compelling enough way that, you know, people who are younger than us, you know, they have a lot more energy, a lot less attention spans. I think if he's catering, maybe not catering, but if he's trying to attract them to his channel, that, you know, the younger demographics, I think he needs to change it up a little bit if he really wants to actually bring those in. Because looking at his Social Blade numbers, he's not going up a whole lot. In the past, I don't know, like couple weeks, he's only gotten up 500 subscribers. There are some days he doesn't gain any. And his views or whatever, they're middling, like 10,000 videos or 10,000 views a day on average. So while basketball might be a fast-growing sport, his channel is not a fast-growing channel.
I mean, that's fair. I understand what you say, where like the commentary is what would bring people in, but what's pushing people away is almost everything else.
Yeah, the
Like
monotony,
the
the
yeah,
clips.
I could definitely feel that, and I think those things could be improved. But I think the one thing he does need to do is keep doing what he's doing with the commentary. Like keep these topics he's talking about are interesting enough for a basketball fan to click on. What's throwing people off is the same music and the other interesting video. Like in theory, it sounds like an interesting video, but then you click on it and you get the video is the same thing you saw a couple video. The clip is from a couple videos ago, and the music is droning on you. So I think if he changed up a few things, I think he'd be growing a little bit faster.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The analysis is the main draw of his channel. That's clearly what he does best. I think it's fairly clear watching this channel that he's definitely more of a writer and more of an analytical person than he is a video content producer. And I think he really needs to focus on improving the actual user watching end of it rather than the hard details of it, because I think he already has the commentary down to kind of a science at this point. But even still, with all the monotony, I think there were definitely a few standout videos that I saw that really showed glimpses of where the channel can really go. We were, before we started watching this channel, I remember I told you guys we should probably only watch videos from the last year, just because he uploads so many, to see what he's kind of doing. And I think he definitely transitioned to maybe doing more stories than he used to, and I think that's a big benefit as well. I mean, you guys would know better than I do of, all the really interesting stories that come out of the NBA. I think those are what can draw in people like me who aren't basketball fans but can appreciate a good story, right? I think that would be a big part of maybe growing his channel.
Yeah, I agree with him. He should be trying to focus on stories. I agree, but I think kind of one of his problems with that is that he's not exactly picking the best people to make the stories all about.
What do you mean?
It's like he started talking about Gerald Wallace. He started talking about Gerald Wallace. But Brandon, if I was to tell you ask you who's Gerald Wallace, like the second before you even saw that video, what do you know who Gerald Wallace was?
Well,
actually,
I knew who he was, and I know what team he played for and what he was good at and I didn't even watch the video. So I do know a little bit about him. I know he played for the Bobcats and he was a good two-way player. He was pretty good on defense. I know what he looked like. I know he had some cool hair. But yeah, I actually, you're asking the wrong guy, because I do actually know a little bit about Gerald Wallace.
All right.
Wow,
I'd say that I'm the average NBA fan. Brandon's like a super nerd for the NBA. I'd say I'm the average one, and I don't know who Gerald Wallace was.
Well, I think that's what made it
originally, I agree to a degree, but if you're trying to draw in a ton of viewers, I think a lot of people would like to hear about, like, Steve Kerr.
Kobe.
Everyone's heard about Steve Kerr, but no one really has heard like a ton about him. He's a household name, but like before I saw The Last Dance, I didn't know that like his dad was killed in the Middle East when he was a kid. Like, I didn't know anything about that. I had no idea anything about Steve Kerr but his name and, the role he played in the Bulls and stuff. But I knew
I
very
think
little about, like, his past. So I think you should be focusing on some of the bigger name people, but, like,
And then maybe once he
that's
gets
just kind of
bigger,
my
focus
thought.
on the smaller
Yeah.
people.
now
Yeah. So if you're focusing on growth, I'd probably try to go for more household names that, like, people have heard of them, people are interested with them. So they'd be willing to watch a full 10, 15-minute video about them.
I think I think this Gerald Wallace episode's an exception to what you're talking about. Like he is doing
Mm-hmm.
like more household names. Like he's done Alex Caruso, which was that video was a personal favorite of mine because I just love Alex Caruso.
Yeah, I
Uh,
like that one
he
too.
did another. I think this might be my favorite video. I don't know if we want to transition to our favorite video yet, but I really, really enjoyed the episode about what's his name? Fred Van Vliet. I don't know if you guys watched that episode, but I watched the 2019 NBA Finals, and I'm seeing this like no name guy on the Raptors just destroying Steph Curry, hitting these crazy shots, and I'm sitting here, who is this guy? I don't know anything about him, but he's crazy. And then I watched the
Mm-hmm.
video, I was like, this guy actually has a very interesting story. So I'd say he has done maybe not super household names like Steve Kerr, but he's kind of teetering on the edge of that. So he's done like Fred Van Vliet, Duncan Robinson, Alex Caruso. He's done Taco Fall.
All right.
He's done some of like the memes of the NBA. Like people know their names, but not really their story. And I think if you get any bigger than that, other people have already done stuff on them. And
Mm-hmm.
where he lies is in the lesser known names that like he thinks need more attention, like Fred Van Vliet and
Uh-huh. I
like
I
Montrezl
do
Harrell.
think I do think that middle ground is good. I do think that that's okay for him to make videos about, like this video he made was all about Shake Milton that plays for the 76ers. All about this entire video, all about that one person. I've never heard of Shake Milton. I assume he's way at the end of the bench of the 76ers. So it's kind of, I've hardly ever heard of a good amount of the people that he's talking about, or at least, two of the people that he's talked about. So I think that middle ground is good, and the household names obviously. But when you're getting to the obscurity, you're not drawing in a lot of people.
I
I,
agree. And
I
after hearing you guys talk about it, I feel like you're both kind of right. I feel like if he really wants to grow his channel, he needs to make videos about really big names like LeBron, Kobe, people everyone know who like might not necessarily know their story, like Kobe. Like watching this guy's channel, I didn't know Kobe was like the last pick in the draft,
well the lottery.
the lottery, whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was the last pick, and hearing that, like, that was insane. Hearing it, knowing, how
Hmm.
great Kobe turned out to be. That's cool stuff, and like that's something I would have liked to see more of. Is how these really big megastars, what trials and tribulations they went through. The obscurity right now, I think, hurts his channel more than anything, because only super fans of basketball are going to watch it, right? So that's already a
Hmm.
small portion of people. And then only super fans who want to learn about these people are going to watch it. So even a smaller, tiny niche of people. So like that Gerald Wallace video, while I really liked it, it only has 10,000 views. It's one of his least viewed videos ever.
Hmm.
So I think it definitely hurts. I think he needs to go bigger now so he can appeal to more people. And then once he has that audience, talk about these lesser known people who deserve more attention.
He needs
Hmm.
to create the super fans through videos everybody can get into, and then go obscure so that the super fans will watch him more.
Right. And I
He,
think
Yeah.
also part of it is he needs to present the information in a much more compelling way,
Hmm.
as we've already said before.
all right. So what was your guys' favorite video then? I know you talked a lot about the Gerald Wallace video, but other than that one, what would you say your favorite was?
I wouldn't say I have a favorite because, again, I had a very difficult time researching this. I queued up like 30 of his videos, and after a while, the monotony of his videos and the same music, it all started to blend together for me. So, as far as a favorite video, the Gerald Wallace one definitely stands out. But another one I also really liked was it's titled, "These 6 players were former high school basketball legends. Where are we now?" Because that's an interesting topic, right? How, like, where these kids came from high school wise, and how their transition was into the NBA. I think like that is a compelling story, right? How kids in high school can get to the NBA just because of how well they can ball up. That's really interesting. And the reason I liked it was I remember, and it's in the thumbnail right now. The reason I found it so compelling was he talked about a really interesting case study, which was, I think it was Isaiah Thomas, I think that's his name, who's notoriously short. Am I getting the person right? Like, he's not...
Yeah.
Yes.
He's not a tall person. And I thought that was incredibly interesting, because it is someone who's going, like, completely the opposite direction you would think they should go in the NBA. In the NBA, you want tall people, big arm spans, you know, someone who's got a lot of weight behind him, who can, you know, kind of bully people around sometimes. But Isaiah Thomas, he's 5'6". He's a short guy. And that is, like, that's just a compelling topic. How does this short guy, who is as tall as I am, how does he get to the NBA? Because I definitely can't play basketball. I can't play it nearly as well as any of my friends. How can this guy play so much better than people who are a foot and a half taller than him? That's interesting to me. Like, people who are just, like, completely changing the game to fit them. That's compelling. That is a topic that he should cover, I think, just in a video on its own. I think he could make a video about Isaiah Thomas and have it be very interesting.
Yeah, I think that'd be a really good video.
Peter, what was your favorite
Brandon,
video?
what's yours?
Okay.
Sorry, I'll go. So I'd probably say mine was, these 8 players were basketball sensations on top of the world, and then they fell off. So it's talking about all of these, like, names. So, like, I've heard of people like Bol Bol, or I don't know who all he talked about.
Mo
in this. I know
Bamba.
he.
Maybe
Did he
not.
do Mo
I
Bamba?
don't
He
know.
made it to.
I don't think. I don't.
NBA.
Yeah. Well, it was a lot of names. I was very, I understood who they were, and I heard all the hype behind them, and then, like, they just vanished. I really like the idea of that. It's like, you've heard of these people, you've heard them being hyped up. This is what they're doing right now, and so I just found it interesting, like the where are they now aspect of it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely also one of his more interesting ones. Like, more interesting series is like, these X amount of players did this. Like, that is something you can serialize into sort of a formula that can get a lot of clicks, because, you know, it's not clickbait, but it's a clickable thing. Branny?
I'm gonna go with the biased answer and say, because I'm a Pistons fan, I'm gonna say he went undrafted and got cut by 4 different teams. It's a video about Christian Wood, who's the current starting center for the Pistons.
I saw that one, and I also like that one a lot.
That one, he has a very interesting story. He got cut by a bunch of teams. He went undrafted, and he has a very interesting story. And now he's just balling out for my favorite team, Peter's favorite team. We love Christian Wood, and so I didn't really know a lot about him other than I loved him because he was really good. And so hearing his story made all that success I saw him have in the last NBA season that much better. It's like, wow, this guy went through all this crap, and now here he is just ripping people up on the court.
Yeah,
And I thought
he's elevating.
Yeah. Now we're gonna pay him lots of money to stay on the team, right? Right, guys.
Yeah.
Please, don't go. This is what we're gonna look back on. This is what we're gonna look back on when he leaves the team and be like, man, how naive we were in that podcast.
Yeah. Shoot, I was just gonna say something.
Wow, you're pretty stupid.
Frick you, man. But yeah, I don't know. It's like I want to like this channel, but there are like issues that are like intrinsic to every single video that turns me off every time I watch his videos. Like one of the things I noticed was I don't know if it's the way he talks. This was actually a criticism I had, but I didn't want to go too hard in it. I feel like he doesn't talk with a lot of presence in his videos. I feel like he talks not nervously or timidly, but it feels like he's not talking out, like he's not talking casually. I don't know how to describe it. Did you guys notice that?
I didn't notice. I didn't in a negative connotation way. I didn't notice it. I actually liked the way he talked. I thought it was soothing almost. It was like it wasn't
Wrong.
like too overhyped. It wasn't like he was like yelling at me, and it also wasn't like he was like whispering. He was just like in the middle, like telling me about. It seems like he was like he genuinely wanted to tell me about something, and that's the way he was talking. That's how I saw it, but you guys can disagree if you want.
I kind of didn't really even notice that until you brought it up. It just didn't. I don't know. This doesn't really seem like a make or break thing to me. Just his voice.
Yeah,
I
just
clued into
stop
it just
making fun of him
because
for the way that he is, T Dot.
I think he's fine. Like he enunciates, he says everything right. I think he needs to talk with a little more energy, really, is the thing. I think it adds to the monotony when he keeps the same tone of voice. He doesn't sound energetic. He's going through it really calm and collected. I think that really ends up hurting the watching experience when he doesn't get more energetic, when he doesn't get excited. And I don't think he needs to necessarily do it all the time, but I think he needs to do it sometimes just to make it a little more interesting to listen to. But what I was saying was, the videos, like the quality of the commentary is good, like we've been saying, but I noticed many times watching his videos, I would feel like I was watching a video for a long time, and then I, scrolled over, I put my mouse over it, and I was only 4 minutes in, or I was only 5 minutes in, I was only 3 minutes in, and the videos feel so much longer than 10 minutes. They really do. It's like there's so much densely compacted information. Like he doesn't waste any time, which is good, but it's like it just adds to the monotony when he's gone through like so many numbers, and it's like, okay, that was a lot. How far are we? Oh, we're only 3 minutes in. Okay. I think that's something I was doing constantly.
Now, I think a lot of the issues we're talking about are negated when you take in the fact that for this podcast, we watch like 50, 40, 30 videos in the span of like a week. When if you were watching him as they're coming out, you're getting one a week. So I think this channel really lends itself to the fact that you're subscribed. And I think that might be one issue why he's not growing, is because what people will do when they find a new channel is they'll watch a bunch of videos. And I think the strength comes from the fact that he's not making a video every day, so you're not always being bombarded with these minor issues with the videos that eventually end up compacting onto one another when you watch 6, 7 straight. So I think it's one of those like first impressions aren't great if you watch a bunch of them, but like once you're subscribed, it goes a lot better. And one thing I think that has to be said about him is that he hasn't had any actual NBA basketball to talk about for months now. And so that's when he started doing these draft grades for every past draft, going all the way back into the 90s. I think if you go back to when the season was still going on, he was doing a lot of analysis of current day things happening. Like when the Suns had a hot start to the season, he talked about them and talked about like their stats and how this and that are going upwards. And when the NBA season ends, he doesn't have anything really new to talk about. So he's forced into talking about things that maybe modern day or people watching videos now wouldn't find too interesting. And so I think this quarantine's not helping him, because a big strength of his is analysis of the season as it's going on. And now that there's no season, there's no analysis. So it's taking a hit for it.
Well, I think that's a problem with the channel then overall, because the season isn't year round. I mean, when is the season? When does it start? When does it end?
September, end of September, ends in June.
Really? It's that? Okay, I didn't know it was that long. My argument kind of falls apart there.
And you have and before then you have preseason, and in the middle of the summer you have the awards, the draft, the combine.
Well, I still think it's a problem. I still think it's a problem, because when there's no basketball, I think it's clear that the videos take a hit. And what I really think, if I was gonna give Hoops Reference like some tangible advice that I think he could do to make it better for a general audience, people who don't know anything to people who know just a little about basketball, upload less, right? Pick more interesting topics. Like, stop trying to upload 3 videos a week. Change up the music. And add a little more energy and a little more of your own style to these videos, and make the video clips more interesting. Peter, if you had to give him something to work on for maybe the average basketball fan, what would you say?
Again, I think just go talk more about the lives of well-known players. One thing that I kind of noticed that I'd like for him to switch up a bit is his thumbnail format. It's always three players side by side. Switch that up sometimes, and yeah, I agree. Upload a little bit less. Try to go a bit more into it. Maybe talk about their lives and potentially go into some interviewing with other YouTubers, like collabs with other YouTubers.
Or even try to interview, people who are in the NBA or were in the NBA.
Potentially. That'd be kind of hard, but if you can, I'd try.
Well, yeah, he could talk to lesser known people, like maybe busts.
That's true. You probably could try to do that.
Brandon?
That'd be interesting.
As a super nerd about basketball, what would you say he could improve?
I'm gonna zag while you guys zig. I think he's doing a lot of things right, and I think the stories he's telling are interesting enough for me. Now I know this is my biased opinion as what do you guys fucking call me?
Super nerd.
Fuck you guys. I really like what he's doing. I think almost every single one of the stories he's telling, if it is a story, is an interesting enough story for me. I think the stats he's going into are in depth enough for me to like it and not too difficult for me to understand. And but I do have to agree on some things. The music, please change it up every once in a while. The clips be a little bit more interesting and highlight exactly what you're talking about better. But other than that, this is still one of my favorite channels when it comes to basketball because of how in depth he goes. And I guess I'm a super nerd for liking those things.
Yes, fuck you.
Nerd.
Yeah.
I thought of one more thing is I think he definitely needs to talk about more popular players as well. I think part of his niche is he talks about obscure players, but I really don't think that's helping him grow. I think if he talks about the really big players and does different content, like stuff that hasn't been done before, that will also help a lot.
Hoops Reference, if you're listening to this, you can just cut out everything those two said and just listen to me. They're wrong.
Well, see, that's the thing. I do think his channel deserves more attention. He obviously puts in a lot of work. I'm trying to offer more constructive criticism than just shitting on him. I think he's doing a lot right. I just don't think he's doing everything right, which is really hard to do. And I think the reason he's not growing is because he's not changing and he's not trying out new stuff. And I think that's what he really needs to do. If he really, he needs to, just test a bunch of different ideas, see which ones perform best, and then capitalize on that. Like, he has videos that have over 500,000 views. He has one video that's over 1 million views. He needs to learn what is making these videos successful and copy them, not exactly, but figure out why and then do it more. But circling back around to the very beginning of this discussion, where my question going into it was, can a non-basketball, non-sports fan such as myself watch and enjoy the content, or is it something a basketball sports person has to be into? And disappointingly, I really have to say, you really have to like basketball, and you really have to just, in general, enjoy sports to watch Hoops Reference. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'd say for the most part, I'd agree with you. If you like basketball, you're gonna like the channel. If you don't like basketball or not interested in basketball, you're just not gonna like it. It's the way she goes.
I think I'm gonna definitely agree with you guys, but I would also say if you're watching a basketball game and you don't really know a player, but you're like, man, that guy's playing pretty well, I would give it a look up on Hoops Reference to see if there's a video about him, because I
For
know
sure.
that's one thing I did when I was watching the finals. When I was like, who's this Van Vliet guy? And then I watched the video. I was like, actually, he has a very interesting story. Or you see on the news like, oh, Shake Milton's having this crazy stretch of like 4 or 5 games. Just give that name, will type into this good old search bar on Hoops Reference and give it see if he's got a video on it. But if you're not a huge NBA fan like me, or in some cases Peter, this probably isn't for you just yet. In the future, our opinions might change, and this might open up to be a more open community for everybody. But as it stands, you need to be watching a good amount of basketball to really get a lot out of this channel.
Yeah, and I think if you're trying to get into basketball, Hoops Reference is a good place to start, but I think you got to know what you're looking for, because otherwise you'll get caught up in the monotony of this channel, and you just will get bored with this channel and potentially the sport.
What I would say is, if you're trying to get into basketball, I would wait to really start watching this channel until the season starts, and then while you're watching the season, you can supplement that with analysis from Hoops Reference. I think that'd be
True
a
as well.
good place to start with his channel, is wait till the season starts back up again.
Yeah. So overall, channel Hoops Reference, lot of potential. Just a few areas where he's not really putting in. Either he's not putting in the effort, or he doesn't know that he needs to put in the effort in some of these areas. Either way, I hope he hears our commentary, because I think we offered some pretty good points. But overall, I can't say I necessarily recommend throwing this guy in the watch later playlist on YouTube or subscribing just yet. I think it needs to change a little bit before I can really say a mass audience can really listen to Hoops Reference.
Yeah.
Brandon's over there just fuming. Stop badmouthing this channel. No, this is one of my favorite, but I'm not going to disagree with what you guys said. So.
Yeah. Glaring issues, but
where do you guys? So then, where do you guys see him in a year then? Where do you see him at the end of 2020?
Well, if he keeps growing at the rate he's growing, which is about 5,000 views in 2 weeks, that's 5,000 subscribers in 2 weeks, and about 10,000 views per day. Let's see, 5,000 subscribers no, not 5,000, 500. I was misspeaking the entire time. Fuck.
Just go back and post and change it to 5, but make it really obvious.
Yeah. 500 subscribers in about 2 weeks. I don't know. I'd say in a year from now, 70 to 75. If he has a really good year, 80,000.
I was thinking 80 to 85. I feel like he's somewhat going up, and I think with the season coming back, it'll give him a boost. I don't know. I feel like that's a possibility.
Hot take.
That's very true.
90K to 100K by the end of the year. That's my hot take.
That is a cold take, sir. Cold take.
I guess we'll
maybe.
see. We're
plausible.
We're coming back to this. We're gonna figure it out. It's gonna be 90K by the end of the year.
Cold take. Cold take.
I'm gonna get in
Ice
in
cold.
cahoots with him. All right, I think it's volcano take. I think frick you, dog.
I think it's a fuck you, I'm right take.
Yeah, it is. It is. Frick you, dude.
Die. Okay. All right. Well, I mean,
Next week
unless
when
you
we
guys have
review
any other.
PewDiePie.
He's the next PewDiePie. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've pretty much said everything else I need to say. I think you guys are pretty much said everything else you need to say. So I think this is a good time to wrap up. Thanks everyone who made it all the way through this episode. Hoops reference, basketball channel, a lot of potential, few errors, but if you
We'll
like
see where it
basketball,
goes.
check them out. Thank you everyone for watching. Hope you have a good one. Bye bye.
See ya.